If you are pretending not to be in pain when your heart is broken into pieces and you feel each broken piece, share with someone. You just lost someone you love. How can you pretend there's no pain? If you think that tears are a sign of weakness, I cannot tell you how many times I have heard people say, I don't want to cry. I want to be strong. Tears are not a sign of weakness. If you think that tears are a sign of weakness, you're wrong and you're missing a healing opportunity. Did you know that there are advantages to having a good cry? Let me pause for a while and just park right there because I want to share. I did a little bit of research and I found it really interesting. And I want to share right here some of the benefits of crying. Here they are. Welcome to Get Real with Alexis Jones. On this podcast, we'll dive into real relationships with real people guided by the wisdom and perspective of some of the most seasoned voices in our community, our beloved seniors. Each week, we'll unpack the joys, challenges, and lessons learned about love, family, friendship, and everything in between. This is a space for heartfelt conversations, eye-opening truths, and powerful stories that will inspire and challenge the way you think about relationships. We're keeping it honest, unfiltered, and deeply meaningful. So settle in and let's get ready to get real. Let's jump in. Welcome again, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Get Real with Alexis. I've been sharing my journey of grief since I lost my firstborn son, Herman, on January 10th, 2025, this year. And grief is one of the hardest journeys any of us will ever face. It shows up after we lose someone we love, and it has a way of making us feel isolated, even when people are all around us. I want to talk about companions in the valley. Companions in the valley. I remember the first time I attended church after Herman passed. I walked into the church sanctuary where there were hundreds of people, as there always are, as I had done Sunday after Sunday. But after Herman passed, everything was different. This was all new to me. This was all surprising to me. I remember feeling so alone and so isolated. It was unbearable. I started going to church with my younger son, who attends a different church, because I felt this need to just sit with my family. And so I did that for several Sundays. And then there were Sundays when relatives actually attended church with me. But I found it hard to attend by myself. Here's the truth. Grief was never meant to be carried alone. When we allow others to walk beside us, something powerful happens. Their presence may not take away the pain, and it doesn't, but it does remind us that we are still connected to life, to love, and even to hope. Whether it's a friend who calls just to listen, a counselor, a therapist who helps us sort through our emotions, or a support group where strangers become like family, these connections help us to breathe again. Sometimes we hesitate to reach out. Why? Why do we do that? I think that sometimes we do that because we don't want to burden other people. I remember feeling like I'm sad And I really don't want to spread this sadness around because people could be in a really good mood and you call them because you need to reach out and you're in a really sad place. It feels to me like an inconvenience. But if it's somebody that cares about you, they want to hear from you. But grief is not a burden to be hidden. It's a story. It's your story and it deserves witnesses. Sharing our grief gives others the chance to love us. It does. And that love makes the journey bearable. Sometimes we hesitate to reach out because we want to be quote unquote strong or at least appear strong. If you are pretending not to be in pain when your heart is broken into pieces and you feel each broken piece, share with someone. You just lost someone you love. How can you pretend there's no pain? If you think that tears are a sign of weakness, because I want to be strong. Tears are not a sign of weakness. If you think that tears are a sign of weakness, you're wrong and you're missing a healing opportunity. Did you know that there are advantages to having a good cry? Let me pause for a while and just park right there because I want to share. I did a little bit of research and I found it really interesting. And I want to share right here some of the benefits of crying. Here they are: emotional release and relief. Crying allows for the release of pent-up emotions like sadness, anger, and frustration that are often overwhelming during grief. This can help to reduce stress and tension. And put a pin in stress. I'm going to talk about that a bit in a few moments. Crying also offers a sense of relief and catharsis. Crying is self-soothing and regulation. Crying activates what they call the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to calm the body and regulate emotions, returning to a more neutral state over time. That's a lot of jargon, but if you have a good cry, you've gone through tissue after tissue. When you finish, and you finish blowing your nose and drying your eyes, there's this moment of peace and relief that you experience for a few moments, for hours, for the day. I don't know, depends on you, but there is relief. Tears give you relief from pain. Emotional tears release endorphins and natural hormones known to reduce stress and enhance mood. Tears also help in this area: processing and healing. Crying is an important part of the grieving process, helping individuals to process the loss and begin the healing journey. Here's another area: seeking and accepting support. Crying can signal to others that help and support are needed. This can foster deeper connections and a sense of shared empathy with those around you. They see you cry, they know you're in distress. They can't stop your pain, but they can sit there with you and they can let you know. They can take your hand. They can put their arm around you. I told you on an earlier podcast when my younger son, Brandon, came and he walked into the room. I live in a condo. He walked through the door and came into the larger family room. And I was sitting on my sofa in complete silence. My eyes were red because I had been crying. And he looked at me, didn't say a word. He just walked over to me, sat next to me, and he just put his arm around me. He never said a word. I cannot tell you how comforting that was. The other area that crying helps is detoxification. Emotional tears contain stress hormones. Remember, I told you to put a pin in stress. Emotional tears contain stress hormones and other chemicals, and crying can help release these from the body. Who would have known? Detoxification from crying, improved sleep, the calming, mood enhancing, and pain relieving effects of crying may contribute to easier and better quality sleep. Grief and stress can significantly impact heart health and potentially lead to heart problems. So I want to talk about that for a moment. Severe grief can trigger stress. There's a name called stress cardiomyopathy. I believe I said that correctly. It's also known as broken heart syndrome. That's a thing. And chronic stress can increase the risk of heart attacks and other cardiovascular issues. Just a bit more about the broken heart syndrome. This condition, triggered by intense emotional or physical stress, can mimic a heart attack. Symptoms include chest pain, shortness of breath, and is characterized by a temporary weakening of the heart muscle. While often reversible, it can be serious and even fatal in some cases. Chronic stress and cardiovascular disease. Prolonged stress can elevate blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and inflammation, all of which strain the cardiovascular system. This can lead to irregular heart rhythms, increased risk of heart attacks, and other heart problems. Grief and blood pressure. Studies have shown that severe grief can cause a marked increase in blood pressure. Here are some important considerations. Just a bit more about stress and grief. Ignoring symptoms. Crucial to be aware of the potential link between grief, stress, and heart problems, and to seek medical attention if you are experiencing or you know someone who is experiencing symptoms like chest pain, shortness of breath, or dizziness, regardless of the perceived cause. This was new information for me that I'm sharing with you. And I've experienced some of these symptoms. I did not know that there was a connection between grief, stress, and heart problems. I was thinking about sometimes when a husband passes away, the wife might pass away soon after, or vice versa. I remember my dad passed away in May, and then my mom passed away in August. And I wondered, is it the stress on the heart that could cause this? I'm sure it is in some cases. I don't know if that was the case for my mom and dad, but grief, stress, and heart problems. So I was talking about crying and the benefits of crying. In essence, crying is a vital part of coping with grief, and it can be a stepping stone toward healing and finding a way to live with the loss. So if you find yourself unable to cry despite feeling the urge to, or if crying becomes excessive and disruptive to your daily life, it may be helpful to seek professional support. Now, my topic is having companions in the valley. We all have valley experiences, and losing someone we loved is one of them. Who can walk with you in the valley? Who can walk with you in your grief? The truth is, not everyone can. There are people who love you dearly and they are willing, but not everyone can. Not even everyone who is willing they may not be able to walk with you. And so I shared from this book previously. There's a series of 4. It's called Journeying Through Grief by Kenneth C. Hawk. And book 3 is entitled Finding Hope and Healing. So if you would allow me, I want to share something I read about healing, what he calls healing friends. Healing friends. The key to talking through your grief is finding people who will let you talk and help you heal. I call these healing people. And he uses the acronym HEAL. H for hear, E for empathetic, A for accepting, and L for listening. Healing people are here for you when you need them. They're willing to be with you and make time for you. They know that their presence is one of the greatest gifts they can give. Notice he said their presence, not their advice or their suggestions, or they're just their presence, just their presence. The second is empathetic. No one else can truly understand what you're feeling. But people with empathy will do their best to understand and to let some of your pain touch them. Everybody can't do that. Everybody doesn't have the ability to be empathetic, accepting. They don't judge you, try to change you, or tell you what you should do or how you should feel or what you should think. And then finally, listening. They really focus on what you have to say. Have you ever spoken with a good listener? My son Herman was a really good listener. I mean, he was 100% tuned in if you were talking to him, and he would never interrupt you. He was so patient, he'd wait till you totally finished what you had to say before he spoke. Just the gift of listening. So this is part of what Kenneth Hawk is calling a healing friend. Let me go back to listening. They really focus on what you have to say. They let you share your feelings and know how important it is for you to tell your story again and again, because you end up repeating stories over and over again. I remember telling so many people of how I felt the moment I was told that Herman was no longer with me. I repeated that story over and over again. And I didn't need anyone to say, well, you know, Alexis, you said that earlier. Did you forget? You need to get that out. When you're grieving, you're going to repeat things over and over again. Where can you find these healing people? I'm glad you asked that question. I asked that question. They may be among your close friends, though often they are not. More likely, there are people who've lost a loved one in recent years. You may find healing people among those who sent meaningful cards or letters after your loved one died. Grief support groups are usually full of healing people. Some healing people will seek you out, but most of the time you'll have to look for them. And you have to be willing to look for them. You have to be willing not to try to do this alone. And it's very tempting to do it, to try to do it alone, but you can't. You can't. You need somebody to walk with you. That will make the burden lighter. One man told me, I'd read people's faces. I'd check their eyes when we made eye contact. I'd look at their body language. I'd listen to how they said, "How are you?" I was often able to tell which people really wanted to know how I was. And that's really an important point. because we say that just as people. How you doing? How you doing today? We often don't even wait to get a response to that question, right? Because of what I'm going through now, when I say that just to anybody that I meet, and they don't answer because they don't expect me to even care how they're feeling, I said, I want to know how you're doing. I want to know. And so he says he often is able to tell which people really mean it. That might be a healing person. I'm almost done with this section. You can sometimes help a friend become a healing person. And I felt like I was on that part of my journey I experienced as well. A woman told me about a friend who wanted to help, but kept interrupting her with cheerful cliches. Finally, the woman told her friend, "Here's what I need from you. Let me be upset without trying to cheer me up or fix things. Let me talk while you mostly remain quiet and listen. Let me cry. Give me a hug. You don't have to say or do a whole lot. Mostly, just be here and care." Her friend got the point and became a healing person. From then on, the grieving woman offered a wonderful gift to her friend, the opportunity to care in a most helpful way, a gift the friend returned many times over. You need to talk. You need healing people to talk to. So keep a close lookout for them. You don't have to do this alone. You can't. I hope that my podcast episodes help. When I do them, I think about my own experience. And I just, I say this all the time. I am no expert. I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I am just sharing with you my experience since I lost my son. My brother asked me the other day, I don't remember how he phrased the question, but in essence, he wanted to know where I was and how I was doing, if I felt any better or stronger. I wish I could remember how he eloquently put the question, because it felt so sincere. Just the way he asked it felt so comforting. But I told him, this is what I told him. I said, I'm not crying every day, but I miss Herman and my heart is still heavy, and that there is not a moment in the day or the night that I'm not thinking about him. When I was in my first grief support meeting, a gentleman said something that really resonated with me. He said, because this was specific to losing a child, so you can apply it to your situation or the situation of one of your friends or loved ones. He said, losing a child is like someone put a 25-pound sandbag on each shoulder. Those sandbags are never removed. You just get strong enough to carry them. So maybe I feel stronger, but I'm aware of the loss. I'm aware of the void. The heartache, the heartbreak is real. I'm aware how to take care of myself in this situation. When I get up in the morning, I ask God to give me strength, to give me peace, give me comfort, and help me to put one foot in front of the other and go throughout my day. I try to stay busy, but not so busy that I'm running from my grief, if that makes sense. You can be so busy that you are actually running from grief, and you can't do that. It will catch up with you. But I don't want to sit here and wallow in my grief either. So we need each other. We need companions in the valley. You can't do it alone, and you don't have to. You don't have to. And if you're the companion, you don't have to have the answers. You can't fix it. How can you fix it? The only fix is to bring the loved one back. And you can't do that. So be there. Just be there. That's enough. I know it doesn't seem like enough. I know it feels like you need to give this answer that would bring a smile, but don't do it. Just you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't be there. Just be there. Companions in the valley. Join me for another episode, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, especially with someone who may be going through grief. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me as a new podcaster, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.